Okay, welcome back to the main stage here. Thank you for joining us right after your lunch break. Maybe you had something. Maybe you just sat in the front row ready for this next presentation because it is going to be a fabulous conversation, not just because I get to be part of it, but certainly because of this gentleman that we're going to welcome to the stage in just a moment. We're very excited to have him with us here today, Abran Maldonado. He is the founder of Create Labs. He is an official OpenAI ambassador. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means today, but he was around using these tools long before probably anyone else in this room. Maybe we can see if there's someone you worked with early, but I doubt it. He was there long before most of us. He also created the first female GPT-powered AI avatar, and we're going to talk a little bit about her today too, Claira, with an AI in the middle, C-L-A-I-R-A, get it? Claira, he knows. All right, so without further ado, let me welcome him to the stage. Abran Maldonado, welcome. You're far away from me.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, are we allowed? These are really heavy.
They're
chairs.
heavy.
Ooh, yeah. All
okay.
Right. We're doing feats of strength later out back. If you want to watch us,
this
we're
is
very
too comfortable,
strong.
especially after lunch.
I know. We shouldn't have given you lunch. Don't give the speakers lunch. No, they're very nice here. In Czechia, they eat like a lot of food.
I know.
Like
a lot of great desserts.
Thanksgiving meals for every meal. Yeah, there are a lot of desserts. They're good though. Okay, that is not what we're here to talk about though. We are talking about all kinds of things, AI agents, automation. You are certainly an expert in many of these things. And I want to cover a lot of topics with you today.
Sure.
But let's just start a little bit broadly. So you work at this intersection of tech and culture. You've even done a lot of work like in education and community building.
Yeah.
Why do you think this is the moment where we're having this conversation, rethinking like our relationship with AI and automation, and essentially like what's at stake if we're not having these conversations?
Well, we don't want to risk falling behind. I think for a lot of late adopters, my wife knows that I've been using this GPT technology for the last 5 years, and she just started using it this year. And I'm like, babe, like, if anybody could have had a head start, it was you.
Yeah.
She's late to everything, and I think we're used to that. You know, a new social media comes out, oh, I don't want to use it yet. Your friends start using it, okay, fine, I'll make an account. But this is going to change how we work, how we live. This is like the internet all over again. And before that, this is like electricity. And it's like you don't want to be a late adopter to electricity. You don't want to be a late adopter to the internet. It changes how well you can participate in society. And I think AI is that again. AI is not crypto. AI is not Bitcoin. Like, oh, I'm just not a Web3 guy. It's not something that you could just put in its own lane because it's going to impact our life whether we like it or not.
Right, so it's a little bit different in this case. So I had people try and convince me, get into Bitcoin, long phone calls like, Margaux, I can't believe you're not doing it yet. What are you doing? In this case though, like the example of your wife is a great one because you did have a leg up and she didn't, she wasn't that fast.
Yeah.
But with us here then, this is a room of people that are using it. Like we did a show of hands earlier. Every single person here is using it in some way. Should we be like out there encouraging our friends and family who are not necessarily in the tech industry to like get on board? And if so, where? Like where do they need to be focusing their attention? Because I often get the question from friends like, Margaux, where do I learn to actually be like ahead and not just kind of using ChatGPT for my recipes, Like the average person.
Yeah, I mean, I think the space is evolving, right? It's going beyond just ChatGPT, but although ChatGPT in and of itself is evolving, right? There's more features being added to ChatGPT. There are more customizations, integrations, connectors, they call them now. They just announced Agent Builder. And this is the other thing too. There is a delay in what gets rolled out in the EU versus what's being rolled out in the West Coast or in the States.
Yeah.
We talked about Sora 2. I tried to access Sora 2 out here. I couldn't get in. So there's a delay in the rollout. So you're already behind just because of that. So by the time you get it, it's already 4 or 5 months after everyone else got it. And by the time you get access to a new tool, something else came out at that time that you're then late to. So it's important for you to be an early adopter at these tools, to understand the fluency. And the best practice is prompting. Like you want to understand the best practices around prompting, negative prompting, knowing how to write in your own guardrails, know how to write in structure of tone, tonality, personality, restrictions, knowing how to import the right data, give it the right context and sequence of like how you want that information prioritized and how you want your answers returned back to you. All of these things are really good best practices because every tool that they put in front of you is all gonna be a blank screen with the same type of language-based prompt interface. Yep. Whether it's an agent builder, a chatbot, image generator, video generator, proposal writer, like all these tools are just gonna be a blank screen. We need to know how to work with that blank screen.
You gave me already a lot that I can pull out from there because I think like we hear all these things and we're like, yeah, that. But now I would love to, and I was gonna wait a minute to do this, but we're just gonna jump right in, Abran. I would love to hear from you, like what are actual tips for us, if we were like quickly jotting them down, for like prompt engineering hacks or tips that we should all be doing that we're probably a lot of us haven't done properly yet. Like give us the like, what are we actually writing? What are we doing that's like a hack or a tip for prompt engineering? And then we'll get to the agent part in a minute.
So at the onset, you wanna give it your goal. Your job is to do X. This is what I want from you. First step, right? A little tip that some of us, old school prompt engineers do is we separate each step of the instructions with whether it's a couple hashtags or dashes. I put 3 hashtags. All right, first set of instructions, 3 hashtags, next set of instructions. This is what I want from you. This is the role I want you to play. This is what good looks like. This is what exactly the output is that I want back from you. Here are some examples. I give you this, you give me this back. I give it 3 or 4 of examples of like, this is the sequence, and this is how I want you to think about how to generate this answer. Here are the 5 things I want you to consider before you return an answer, right? So you wanna make sure that you lay out a clear plan, no different than how you would onboard a new employee at your company of like, when you deal with a customer, I want you to follow these 10 steps.
Yeah.
GPT, if you're dealing with a customer on my behalf, you need to follow the same steps that a new employee would follow. Then beyond all that, you say, okay, these are the things I don't want you to do. If someone asks you this, don't say this in return. Don't make generalizations about these populations. Don't assume this. Don't give this person information that's not related to them. If they try and change the topic, don't change the topic. I only want you to do this one thing for me and for other people.
If we're setting this up in one of our threads, we do all that right at the top the first time. Can we just keep using the thread in with our one prompt then for a long time? Or do
and now there's shared memory now in your session where it's learning across all, if you change that in the settings, it's learning across all of your sessions.
Yeah.
So if you have that in there once, it'll know, okay, follow these instructions moving forward for everything. And then, okay, that's the instructions, that's the system instructions. But then it also lets you upload documentation. All right, what information do you need to upload to make sure that it has the information it needs to make the right decisions or give you the right output?
Yep.
Very few, people make that effort. They ask you one thing and like, I don't like this answer, this is dumb. We're like, well, how much information did you give it? Yeah. And they call it hallucinations. No, you just gave it poor guidance. And if someone on your team does something that wasn't, as an employer or as a supervisor, and when someone messes up in your team, you gotta think about like, oh, maybe I didn't train them properly. Maybe I didn't give them clear instructions. There's a bit of shared accountability of like, maybe I didn't coach you right to do that job well. So we gotta think about AI the same way.
Yeah. Now, I think for those of us that are like, okay, Abran, that part I already knew, I need to do more of it. Maybe I'm not doing it well enough, but they knew that. Now let's talk a little bit about agentic AI, because I think that there's a lot of us still at the point of like, yes, we're chatting back and forth with an LLM, with a tool like this, but we're not actually doing the things that could save us like serious chunks of time. I know even like we had a call in advance of this, you had like 5 things running in the background doing work for you while we were on the call, right? Kind of concept, or when you're hanging out with your kids or whatever. So how should we be approaching agentic AI and the tools that are available right now reasonably, again, for the average worker?
So the agent has like a wheel around it of your instructions. It has the documentation. So those 2 pieces we already talked about. And then it also has access to tools that it's allowed to touch and open on your behalf because you gave it the key to access those things, whether it's API or MCP. and then you gave it guardrails. So, okay, you're allowed to do X, Y, and Z with these tools, with these instructions, with this data, with this stored memory, but I'm not allowed to do this. So the guardrails are down here. I'm not allowed to do these things. And I'm allowed to do all these things on your behalf, but then I'm also supposed to report back to you and check back in. So these agents have all this capability to go out into the world on your behalf and do all these things, but still check back in with you. That's gonna change things, because what I'm describing is almost what a job description would be for someone on your team. And the CEOs around you are meeting with people like me and saying, how many people on my team can I turn into an agent? Mm-hmm. You know, how much of my staff can I automate with these agents? And it's a scary thing, but it's the reality of where we are. But because you're giving them the autonomy to make decisions and open doors and access documents and log into things on your behalf, it's gonna change what these things can do. But we all have access now to agent platforms where we can make our own. So I have a family agent that books dentist appointments and doctor appointments and adds things to our family calendar. I have one that's, reviewing LinkedIn for me. After this event, I'm gonna have 50 messages in my inbox. I have another agent that's pulling out those messages and putting it into a spreadsheet. So you can do a lot of things to save you time, and that's what these tools are really meant for.
But if you reach out to him on LinkedIn, he's obviously gonna send you a very personal response, don't worry.
I actually have a human responding.
Yeah.
Her name is Tanya.
Good.
But very few times do I have a chance to review my own inbox, so my team reviews the inbox.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great one then. So should we all here, while we're at this conference, we're busy, we're watching these great talks and we're focused, we're not on our phones. Should our phone be doing something for us already right now? What's a good example of like something we could all set up when we leave today so that next time we're busy in events, it's working for us?
So I'm not saying you look old, but I'm not assuming you're all students, right? I'm assuming some of you have jobs and you took off a day of work to be here.
Yeah.
Right? You look like you're a working age and you made a choice to do one thing over another, right? So you're here. So if you're here learning from me or learning from Margaux and the other sessions, you're not checking emails, you're not attending meetings. These agents can be checking your emails and reviewing things for you, and soon with digital humans like Claira, can be attending meetings on your behalf while you're out doing something else. So instead of choosing either or, you're splitting your time and cloning yourself through these agents to do multiple things at once. And I think we should choose this over this. Human connection is gonna be more valued. Being out there in the world, doing more things with our personal time and letting the agents do the computer stuff.
I think that's the transition that really is exciting. It's like right now we're still seeing us all behind computers, but this narrative keeps coming out of like, actually it'll just give us more time to be with the people that we love and have these things kind of like done for us as opposed to the administration aspect.
Yeah, and touch grass. Like touch leaves, like do a lot of things outside and let the computers do the computery things.
Yeah. Are we seeing already like that shift in how people are seeing AI as like not just a tool, but this, way to integrate into our lives to change things? Like we did a poll earlier and everybody in the audience had used AI this week for sure, right? Like this audience is the kind that's done that. So is there that shift to see it as like a really great tool and not just a work function? Like you were saying, you book dentist appointments and stuff. Like, is that just you and a few friends, or are we seeing a shift already?
So these shifts are happening in real time. Just this week, there were agent builder platforms. They were a little too technical and complicated for the everyday person to like really grasp. N8N, Tiny Agent, like these are things that were already out there and everyone looked at it. They're like, I don't know what this is. But ChatGPT just this week announced Agent Builder. They had their big event on Monday, and they announced that you can build agents right within ChatGPT, and you can use their agent right within your chat conversation. So that kind of brings it down to a everyday level, to a mainstream level, where like we can all use a tool through conversation to create agents on our behalf. And so the short answer is no. Like I think we still look at this like, this is beyond us, this is more for technical people, and this is more for higher up organizations to decide, are they gonna use an agent to replace us? We haven't really brought it to our level to think like, how can I benefit from making my own agents to give me back my life?
So even if we just leave today and we at least set up something that like checks our email for us while we're gone, or our LinkedIn for us
100%.
while we're gone, we're already like taking that step above the average person for sure.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting kind of idea that we can
And I'll tell you how to do that right out the gate. When you go into ChatGPT, there's a section called connectors. You go to your connectors and you connect it to, use a little toggle. Turn on, connect to Gmail, or turn on, connect to, Outlook or something like that. And then you set a daily, agent to check your emails, review your emails, give you some summaries,
Nice.
and you could do that on a daily basis.
Yeah. Awesome, exciting. Okay, so we're not seeing like a huge shift yet, but it's starting to happen. What about the shift in like creativity that we see? So you come from a background too in music, right? Hip hop and kind of digital medias and things like that. Is AI reshaping like like art and cultural industries and music? Like, are we gonna have really lame, repetitive stuff? Or maybe, of course it creates creative stuff, but it's not created by a human is the argument, right? How do you see the landscape of like culture and art and music with AI?
I'll tell you what it should be doing and how we should be using it, and then what's actually happening.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit of both. I've worked in the music industry for a long time, and I've always wanted to stay in the creative space, but I didn't have the resources. I wanted to be a world builder. I'm a geek. I'm a Marvel, Star Wars geek. I've seen some Star Wars tattoos around here. I'm sure some of you in the audience have some Star Wars tattoos. I'm just like that myself. And for the concept of world builders, those are the George Lucases of the world, the James Camerons, the Stan Lees that build entire universes, these franchises that we go and watch. But in order to pursue a career as a world builder, you have to move to Hollywood, you have to get, your big break, you have to have a $1 billion studio behind you to make these things. Now, from right here in Prague, from your home, you could generate your characters, your universe, your storylines with these tools. And just within the last year, they've reached 4K quality, right? So you can create 4K quality content and build your own movies, TV shows. There's about 5 or so open, I just checked my email, open film competitions, AI short film competitions that are giving thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash prizes for AI generated short films. Huh. And it's showing where things are headed with AI. We're allowing you to do this right from your home. Now, that's how it should be used. What's actually happening is Hollywood studios, the world builders that do have the $1 billion budgets, are also using AI for shortcuts and using it in place of real actors, or, will they do like a work for hire? So like, I'll pay you $300, do a scan of you, and then use you in 100 different movies and never pay you again, right? Well, that's what we don't want, right? Yeah. Or I don't have to use anybody because I'm just gonna AI generate the extras in a big Coliseum scene of like, Roman gladiator movie. And then Sora 2 came out this week. There was a lot of uproar because there were no guardrail, no restrictions on how to use it. So you were seeing a lot of celebrities, historical figures without their permission being used in these videos. Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, Stephen Hawking, Albert Einstein, just generated in all kind of weird scenarios. Some were funny, some weren't, right? Like you have Albert Einstein wrestling Stephen Hawking in WWE. But none of those estates approved that use at all, right? They had the rule of, oh no, well you gotta opt out, right? By default, you're gonna be allowed in this.
Oh,
and if you don't wanna be in there, you gotta call us.
Are we all technically allowed to be in there too then?
Well, that's the thing. So if you make your account and you publish your face in the account, you can put a setting saying, allow people to use my face in these videos. Huh. You might not want that, but Jake Paul, for those of you who know Jake Paul, right? I just found out he's an investor in OpenAI. He was like, yeah, I'll let everyone use my face in Jake Paul videos to generate. He reached, I think it was like $6 billion worth of like ad value in his exposure. So like,
because like he could promote these new pants I'm selling or this water here that I'm selling.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So it's added a new level
okay.
of like influencer opportunities and celebrity opportunities to let everyone generate videos of you rather than you generate it of yourself. Now, guess who's worried? Mr. Beast. Because Mr. Beast does what's known as manual online content, right? Like manual video content. And he spends a lot of hard time and effort and budget making these manual content. Now, everyone can just generate their own content in the same way.
Equally as good quality, but way faster.
Equally as good quality, faster.
Yeah, that is scary for content creators for sure, unless you're like the ones who want to take on this tech really quickly.
Yeah, exactly. So if he wants to keep up with Jake Paul, he has to upload himself onto this platform and enable everyone to make Mr. Beast videos.
That's a whole other decision to let the world use you.
It is.
I would have thought that if someone like that puts their face up there, that they're now like diluting their brand because they're doing all these weird things other people want them to be doing that they haven't like totally signed off on.
So here's my prediction on that, right? And I do have a prediction talk later, but I'll make a prediction here. So I think an artist, one of the big artists in the world, let's say a Taylor Swift or like a Drake, is gonna sign a 9-figure, 10-figure deal, $100 million deal, billion-dollar deal with like a Spotify. A deepfake is only a deepfake until you sign the contract. You sign the contract, it's not a deepfake anymore, right? So now they're gonna allow a Spotify to scan their music library and let everyone generate their own Taylor Swift songs. Let everyone generate their own Drake songs on demand. You just go, and text prompt, I want a Taylor Swift song in the style of this. I want a Drake song in the style of that. And it's not a deepfake anymore because they've allowed it, right? But now this is gonna water down or create this like flood of like user-generated overexposure, just like this Jake Paul scenario. But then it might increase the value of when they come out with their own authentic, actual music, or seeing them live. The value of seeing them live might go up because we've been flooded with the AI-generated version of their content. So who knows? This is the uncertain new future with like content and social media where we're headed.
Still a lot of question marks, but I appreciate you sharing your predictions with us and what you think's happening. I want to ask you some questions about Claira, but I'd love for you first maybe just explain for those who don't know, like, what is she? How did you come to create that? Like, give us a quick, summary of who she is.
Yeah, so like I said, I'm a Marvel and Star Wars geek, so Tony Stark has his Jarvis, so I needed my Jarvis, and I made Claira. And Claira is an acronym for Create Labs. It's the Create Labs AI Rendered Assistant. So that's what CLAIRA stands for. And so she was right, I am very early. I was using GPT back in 2020. I know a lot of you got access in like 22, 23. I was using it back in 2020. And the first thing I did was make a digital human, which is now known as Claira. So first I obviously created a chatbot that I identified as Claira that learned our mission at Create Labs. She was trained on what we stood for and all the work that we were doing at Create Labs. So she was acting like our company assistant. I used another system called Rosebud AI to generate her face. We used Unreal Engine to generate her body. And then an influencer volunteered to lend us her voice to be the official voice of Claira. So now we had the whole package to generate this digital human. And, fast forward, and this is 2020. So no one was generating digital humans. Everyone was still trying to no one barely had access to the GPT technology back then besides just like the research beta. Everyone got access to ChatGPT in December of 22. And then December 22 came around. I was like, oh, everyone has ChatGPT now. I guess no one cares about Claira. It was the exact opposite. Everyone was calling to have Claira do events with me on stage. So she'd be on the screen behind me. We'd do a Q&A live. Sometimes she would go speak without me. She would go do an event at like Amazon and the audience would get to ask her questions and I'd still be in New Jersey. So, and it's a future forecast of like, everyone's worried about robots coming, right? But I think before robots, we're all gonna have digital humans that represent us. So she was kind of like a glimpse into the future of having these digital human agents that work with us and getting very comfortable and normalizing the idea of working with these digital humans.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I was kind of wondering if we create digital humans for ourselves, is it better to go that route of like a separate person like you've done? You created a woman that looks different than you, has a different name. Or is it better to just do almost like an AI digital double, right? Like a digital clone of ourselves. So if they're meeting with you, then they're actually meeting with you and not this like other, well, you know. What do you think? Is there one, because they cost money to create these things and time. Do we make the same as us or someone different than us?
So it's good timing that you bring that up because we just built a platform where everyone can make their own double.
Come on.
Called Double Me.
Okay.
So Double Me AI, it's still in alpha. You know, we'll let everyone know when it's in beta. I'll probably announce it on LinkedIn. But so you're right, because when we build these digital avatars of like celebrities and political figures, like we did a digital mayor in Portugal, you know, and they want a representation of them. Yeah,
because then the mayor can deliver an address to the people without him having to take his busy schedule to do it. His team can like type it in and then the mayor does the address.
There's limited access to town halls where everyone gets to ask an elected official questions. So he was like, everyone has access to me now, right? And also preservation for people who are maybe older or celebrities that want to give a lot of people access to them. We make these like digital avatars, but it's very a custom job. So we were like, everyone should have access to this capability so that you can be out here at this conference, but your Double Me could attend a meeting on your behalf. Or you know, customers can ask your Double Me a question in that sense. But you're right, like there's also a role for non-representative avatars. Like you can have, like Visa has one, right? Visa has one in the activation over there, where that one is not based on any individual, it's just a customer service avatar that you talk to through a display. So for tourism, in those kind of situations, they don't have to be based on any real likeness.
Right. Actually, let's talk about that for a second. So we have been used to like chat bots for the last while, right? When we want customer service, we're typing in, we're like a little frustrated. The technology, now you can put a face to it, right? Like whether it's real or not, like you were just saying. Does the face make that much of a difference in how we feel like an emotional connection or calmness when someone's like answering our questions than that same like frustration we often get when we're just typing in our answers?
I think the same with influencer best practices when you're like trying to content create. They say audio is most important. You could be filming in a basement, you could be outside, the video quality doesn't matter, you could be wearing your pajamas, but if the audio is crisp, then people are gonna pay attention. So I think the AI voice, having natural human voice matters more than the digital quality and the rendering of the face. But we were just trying to jump 2 steps ahead because I think it's a natural progression that we had text chatbots, now you have voice bots, right? You have advanced voice with ChatGPT. The next step was to have a digital face or a digital representation, and then after that is robots, you know? And I think we're robots, and people ask me because I know, how many of you ever seen like Sophia, the AI robot? She's like, you're right, so I've worked with her, we have the same agent, I've done events with her on stage. And the Hanson robotics team that built Sophia, they asked me like, do you want us to build Claira's robot? And I said no, because right now with humanoid robots, it gets a little creepy. The eye contact isn't really there. So you get a lot of like this. You know, and I'm like, you lose kind of like that connection that you have with like a digital avatar that's in a screen that can make eye contact with you and follow your eyes.
And we're so used to screens now that that's okay.
And we're used to screens. But this is also, for the young people in the room, this is the avatar generation. They grew up on Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite. Like they're very comfortable talking with avatars. They talk to NPCs on a daily basis. So you're just advancing the technology behind NPCs and making them non-deterministic, where like, it's not a script that the NPC is just repeating over and over again. It's like an ongoing open-ended conversation that you have with these NPCs that can help you in your daily life.
Abran, going back a second, what do we need to know if we use a tool like Double Me, you know, in terms of like our data, our rights, our face? Like are most of these tools going to be created like in good faith? Or what do we need to know about like what happens when we decide to make that kind of tool?
Yeah, so that's our approach, is to lead with the ethics and the responsibility first to make sure that everyone maintains ownership and IP over their data. I think these other platforms, it gets a little fuzzy because they're giving you a free tool, a very powerful tool. They turn it into a social network. And the one thing we learned about social networks is that you don't own anything that gets uploaded on the social network. We learned that with Meta. It's like once you upload something, the Meta AI is trained on your Facebook profiles. The Meta AI is trained on your Instagram profiles. So it's like they own all of the info that you've uploaded on their platforms. So if we want to allow you to control your bio data, your persona, then I do believe that needs to come from like an independent AI and not from the big guys, because your data is their currency. You know, that's their gold.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see in the next little while, and we're not going to get into a whole conversation about the negative side of that stuff, because we had some good panels already today on this stage about governance and regulation and those things, so you can catch those videos later if you want to catch that part. But okay, let's go to the back end of building something like a Claira. So I understand that it was important for you that she was a woman of color, like that was going to be the thing no matter what from the start, a person of color at least. When you develop something like that, or all the tools that we're doing now that are going to communicate with us, you could make it a black character on the screen, or different nationalities, different races. But what about actually creating like the back end to ensure that it actually knows what that means in principle to come from a background that is not a cis white human?
We make it harder on ourselves when we add that to our mission, because it's not easy. And it hasn't, especially, it's hard enough just from a output standpoint as the chatbot to be culturally accurate and culturally relevant to a certain population, to represent as a woman, to represent as a woman of color, to understand what that is. It's even harder when you involve the visual elements, when it comes to like hair textures and complexion and body type. I've heard it all with Claira. Every time I bring her to an event, they're like, why is she so skinny? And then we put her in like a business suit. Why are you covering her body? And I'm like, I can't win. And we have a team of women within our company that monitor how we build Claira, because I'm a man. I shouldn't be making decisions on how a woman is built, as an avatar. We have women that oversee that. Also oversee what history should she know about women of color and the history of women of color in tech, and who are the pioneers behind her that she should have in her stored memory if she's going to go out there and be a woman in tech representing on a stage. So there's some learned history that we need to feed into her as well. So we make it harder on ourselves to do that. But I think with any tool, because we make a lot of culturally relevant, culturally accurate AIs, you can't do that in a vacuum. You have to pull in the experts from that culture, from that population, to represent that build. Whether we're building for Italy, for Africa. And I say that every time I hit the stage. I'm like, you shouldn't wait for kids in San Francisco to build an AI that can represent your region of the world. Why would you? Like, go and make your own. And your history, your culture better than anybody. You shouldn't sit back and with your hands crossed and say, oh, man, I hope ChatGPT gets it right. I hope they get Prague right, or Czech Republic right. Why would they? You should go out there and make your own that represents your country and your culture, because you know it better than anybody else.
And it sounds like there's going to be some tools now to be able to do that. So
100%.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Are you seeing evidence that makes you hopeful that inclusion is going to scale with innovation?
Yeah, I mean, I've been just hair textures alone. I've seen every iteration of hair textures when it comes to, trying to build in curly hair and like 3D rendering avatars for the last like 6-7 years, and seeing where it is now versus where it was.
Can I do mine now?
Yes, but 3 years ago, no.
Really?
It was tough.
All right.
It was very tough. Even baggy clothes.
Yeah.
Because the thing with clothes is that it's not fluid 3D objects that you're building on the body.
Right.
They're just painting pants on a body.
Right.
So that everything had to be skin tight.
Program the movement of it on top of the, Yeah,
there's physics involved in that.
Right.
So it took engineers to tell me, it's like, we're not just perverts, it's because we're just painting the body a different color.
Got it. Yeah.
So, I've seen the advances. I like where we are now from an image generating standpoint. I was part of a study with the Washington Post where they're like, hey, we know you specialize in generating like non-biased, representative, cultural like images through your prompts. Can you show us how you did it? Because we're doing this big study. Their study was, when they just prompted the word beauty, women of color only came up 9% of the time across all these models.
Right.
So, and that was like a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Now, Midjourney 7 with the latest model with ChatGPT's image generator and with Nano Banana, they're getting really good, but we still don't rely on theirs. We still made our own. And we have our own image generator trained on a very culturally diverse library of photos to get even better than them in
Nice.
image generation.
Exciting. Okay, we're gonna pivot for a second.
Okay.
This has been so good talking about Claira. We are gonna do a speed round, everyone. This means that Abran is on the hot seat.
Okay.
You're just gonna answer me with whatever first comes to mind.
Okay.
Okay, so it can be like a sentence or a word or whatever. It doesn't have to be long, all right?
Go for it.
You ready? Okay. If you had an autonomous robot to handle one annoying everyday chore, what would you pick?
Laundry.
Love it. What's one thing humans will always do better than machines?
Love.
Aw. What's it like to work directly with OpenAI?
Weird.
Ooh, all right. If you could give AI one human flaw just to make it relatable still, what flaw would you pick?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Pass.
Okay, pass.
You
I gotta think about that one.
You built one of the first AI avatars. Claira, we just talked about her. If she were gonna give you life advice, what would she say?
She has given us life advice. She said AI is taking away the things you weren't meant to do anyway.
Nice, Claira. What's the most unexpected way that you've seen AI used?
Unexpected.
Yeah, by like a student or a community member, or maybe even by you, and like it got used in some unexpected way. You weren't ready.
Oh.
Or creative, or...
My son asking for help beating Pokemon on a Nintendo DS.
Good for him. What are the most important skills to learn now that so that we're not like left behind in 3 years?
I was gonna say prompting.
Prompting.
Even though they're coming out with AI prompting, I still think it's the core skill.
Yeah, so go back to the beginning of our talk and
Yeah,
rewatch that part. Finish this sentence. The future will belong to those who?
Who communicate.
That's it. That was your speed round. You did it.
I left one on the board.
Yeah, true.
What was that one again?
You failed. If you could give AI one human flaw to make it relatable, what flaw would you give it?
Sometimes, I would guess say sometimes not listening and be like, could you repeat that again? Like I would love for the AI to be like, what, say that again one time? Give me that one more time.
So it's like your partner at home
Yeah,
when you're not listening. Yeah.
You'd be like, sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Could you just like, repeat that?
Yeah, if it's not paying attention, that would be good. Yeah, it's too perfect right now.
I've called Claira say sometimes. I'm like, what are you umming? You're an AI. You're like, I'm like, you catch little tweaks like that. And you're like, well, how are you programmed to say an
Yeah.
You know?
I actually had one super funny recently. I was using a very popular tool from the US to create AI like training videos. So they're not real humans. It's like you were saying, like a fake AI. And I asked the guy if he could count to 5 on his fingers because there were 5 points we were making in that narrative of the video. So the guy went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like for the half of the video. And I was like, oh, he did. Yeah. Where did he learn that? Like, how did he learn that that was something you did with your fingers that was appropriate? And that was in the front row. That wasn't about you. Cut that from the video footage. But it was. They do some funny things.
That's funny.
Okay, well done. Tell me about it being weird working for OpenAI.
All right, so the history behind this is back in 2020, I was remember, pandemic time, right? We were online all the time, right? We were on Twitter, Clubhouse, remember Clubhouse? You know, we're all just hanging out at home.
That was supposed to be.
And I read the paper on GPT-2, and it never came out because it was too unguardrailed. It was too deemed unsafe for the public. And I was doing a lot of social impact work. I was doing a lot of work in the community, showing everyone new technologies, helping people get trained to get into tech fields. And I heard about GPT, and I was like, oh man, I would love to get access to something like this and see how I could use it for social impact. And then I had a DM on Twitter, and the DM was from Greg Brockman, who's the co-founder of OpenAI, and said, hey, shoot me your email. I want to give you access to GPT. And I like flipped out. I was like, oh my God. I told my wife, I got access to GPT. And she's like, that's so great for you, honey. I don't know what that is.
Did you think it was fake at first?
Not at all. No. So I got access. I was in there. And at the time, there was no ChatGPT, it was just called the playground. And this is like the dashboard where you build with GPT. And the models back then were called Da Vinci. So because I had a social impact background and education background, I was really pushing it for bias, diversity, education, social impact,
Nice.
you know, those kind of use cases. And back then, you couldn't publish what you were doing with ChatGPT or with the AI. You had to apply for like a review board to approve it. So I applied for this use case where I trained a bot on ACLU data to teach people their rights. And so I met with the team and they reviewed it and they said, you know, we're gonna decline your use case because it's like a life or death chatbot and I don't think it's ready yet for like high risk, but do you wanna become an ambassador? And I was like, yes. What is it?
Yes, tell me after.
Yes.
Where do I sign?
So they're like, well, you're gonna sign 1,000 NDAs and we'll give you access to all these models before they're released to the public.
Yep.
And we meet on Thursdays every week. So I met the rest of the crew and it was like 4 or 5 of us that were like handpicked to be ambassadors at the time. And I looked around the room, and I mentioned this at the dinner yesterday. I looked around the room, and there were painters, poets, authors, magicians,
Nice.
musicians. And I was like, huh?
You were expecting like a bunch of tech background type.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We were all quirky creatives that kind of like really honed in on prompting. And we were a quirky bunch. We're still like a quirky bunch. I still call us like the AI Avengers because we're like this weird, really quirky crew that like mastered prompting in the early days. And then Greg and Sam and everybody were like, hey, we're gonna give you access to this thing called DALL-E 1. Come up with some demos and we'll publish the best demos. We're gonna give you to this thing that we've been working on called Codex, which is now like the code generator. Come up with some demos and we'll publish some of these. And then, hey, try this chat thing. You know, so we're testing out this chat interface and I was like, this is stupid. It's the same as the playground. You just changed like the UI. You changed the interface. That was ChatGPT. It was no different than what you were doing in the playground. They just gave it a very simple chat interface and pre-programmed the prompt rather than letting you create your own prompt in the playground.
So you actually thought at first it would maybe like more restrictive almost.
It is more restrictive because they've set the presets in the background rather than letting you tinker with the presets to ChatGPT.
Sure.
So still to this day, like if you go to, you know, openai.com/ambassadors, you can pick time with me and the other ambassadors and book office hours to learn how to use the models. And that's been our role for the last 5 years, meeting with people all over the world, then showing them. And this is like because OpenAI at the time just had like 100 people. So there was no like tech support. There was no like DevRel department or developer relations. It was just us. But I mean, that was the early days. So now it's like the size of Google, you know, it's thousands of people there. They have full on tech support. So they don't quite need us in the same way. Andrew Main, who is our like mentor, who like runs the Dev Ambassadors, he's the host of the OpenAI podcast now. So he's like, so anytime you've ever read the documentation on OpenAI on how to prompt, Andrew wrote those. He was the first like prompt engineer in history. And he's also a magician, and he's also a best-selling like author of sci-fi novels. And he's done like shark shows with like Nat Geo. So like he's a creative that's, you know, the first prompt engineer in history.
When you were first doing all that stuff, was that all just volunteer, most of these people, just because they want it? It's still volunteer?
Still volunteer.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's why I don't have like an official role on purpose because like I could have applied for a job there, but like I wouldn't have the same autonomy.
Yeah.
To even do this. Like the communications department would pick where and when I would go out and speak.
Yeah.
Where so now I'm like, I like staying at like an arm's length.
Yeah.
So I don't like going out in the world and be like, oh, you're the OpenAI guy. I'm like, I'm also doing the same thing with Google AI now.
Yeah.
I'm an early beta tester for Google AI. So like I have the autonomy to kind of like freelance and do whatever I want and have Create Labs without having to do everything under their brand and not, you know, have the freedom that I have, you know.
Did it help with anything with Create Labs? Like, did it change your relationship with your own business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so much of the business, half the team that works for me, I met through those office hours. It's people that like booked time with me through the OpenAI website, asked for advice, and we just had a great connection over a call. And I recruited to Create Labs. I was like, well, if you want to do cool projects, come work for me. You know, or it turned into business. People were like, hey, I want to build this thing, but I don't know how. I'm like, well, I'm going to show you how. And they're like, well, do you know someone that can build it for me? I'm like, I can build it for you.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, you're hired. And you know, that's how I lead to this cycle of like doing custom AI work around the world.
Yeah, maybe tell us about some cool projects happening with Create Labs for, we didn't talk too much about your core business here and what you're doing.
So Create Labs builds custom AIs. So anytime there's a big announcement like, oh, ChatGPT can now do this, a big enterprise says, I want that. But in my company, integrated into our company, OpenAI is not going to do that for you. So like they hire me. I go in my team, we go and develop this. We built MasterCard's first AI product. Another milestone besides Claira, we did the first magazine cover in history in AI art for Entrepreneur Magazine.
Cool.
So Entrepreneur Magazine, they were like, we want an AI-generated AI spread for the cover and the feature story on the future of entrepreneurship. So we did the first one in history for them. And we build education products, healthcare products, mayor avatars, other celebrities, we're building their avatars as well. I still have, our co-founder of Create Labs is still in the entertainment world. So he still brings celebrities our way that want to get into the tech space. And, we're kind of like their go-to team. So we have our hands in all kinds of fun industries.
Yes, that sounds very exciting. What if people here wanted to work with you? Do they book those mentorship hours and try and...
Yeah, you book the mentorship hours or you do some demos. Believe it or not, a lot of people get hired from demos, right? Like you don't have to worry about freelance work or getting a full-time job as an AI developer. I know a lot of people that have gotten hired just by having a good portfolio of demos or a good GitHub of like, here are the AI projects that I've created. And it demonstrates what you can do. Another way is a new AI product comes out, you join those alphas, those betas, and you break the AI. And then you call the company and say, hey, I just broke your product. And they say, thanks for letting us know you're hired. Do you want to come work for us?
Yeah, exactly.
I know a lot of people that gotten hired that way too.
Yeah, nice. That makes me think about the fact that like there are still these complexities with the things that we're building. There are still ways to, break things, but also that means maybe a scary thing if our information is there and someone breaks it and they steal it and like all that, right? There's this whole other side to this conversation that's like a little scarier. But do you think that the projects that you're doing and the people that you're working with, like there's just a lot of trust in something that people don't fully understand, or is the trust like well placed?
Sam recently said when they announced like the agent platform, he was like, new solutions make new problems. And it's true with these new technologies, they create new bad actors, or they create bad actors that can do new things with these tools the same way that you can do it for good. And I think we're gonna see some, unidentified yet, uncertain ways of like how bad actors can create things with agents or with these like AI generated deepfake tools, these video generators. But you can't ignore the superpower with it. And I believe that like OpenAI, Perplexity, Gemini, Claude are being responsible. Yes, I would say they're the most, I call them the core four, the most responsible with your data over the alternative. Like don't just use any AI that gets pushed to you in a sponsored post on Instagram, right? Because you don't know who the team is behind that product.
Yeah, so stuff to like change your face in a picture or something. It's like you don't know, yeah.
You don't want to do that. And the horror stories that we hear with like things that have happened with like character AI, I just think they were just too early. At the time, it was just like not enough guardrail understanding, and they were just too quick to the market. They just wanted to jump into the market without putting the right guardrails and had these, user-generated chatbots, not even like company-made chatbots, but user-generated chatbots with no guardrails that were telling people to do really bad things.
Yeah.
And so you're always gonna have that. So you wanna make sure that you're using really vetted, trusted, well-built, no different than you would wanna use a car that was by a trusted, well-built.
Sure.
You want to drive the Volvo.
Not the kid like around the corner who just put something together for you.
Exactly.
Okay, we're almost at the end here. So tell me, 5 years down the road, we've got these AI agents we're using more. I know 5
years.
5's a long time with how fast everything's moving. So what are you like hopeful to see? What do you think, if we've done it right, what will we be looking at?
To be honest, more human connection.
Okay.
I think we're gonna go back to, it might change jobs, so don't be scared. Jobs might change, not go away, just change. I think employers and companies need to figure out how to maximize what we do well as humans, and it's human connection. There's a lot of great value in doing events like this, so I think you might see roles change to allow us to do more human connection type work, interpersonal work, because our machines are doing the computery stuff. You're not, one of the things that we learned from Claira when she says, we're taking away the things you're not meant to do anyway, we're here to take you away from your computer. You're not meant to sit in front of a computer to make spreadsheets for 8 hours. That's not what you're meant to do. It's not good for your butt, it's not good for your back. So go outside, touch some grass, hug some people, go be creative, critical thinker, communicating as humans do, and let the AIs do the AI things.
It's an exciting future. Everyone, Abran Maldonado.
Thank you.